Hello and welcome everyone. If you're wondering why you're seeing me instead of Guy, the reason is that unfortunately Guy got sick and he had to cancel. So we have to do this without our beloved moderator, without Guy's calendars, who usually leads us through this evening. And instead, I'm doing my best to do all of it on my own. So apologies if I might be a bit slow, simply because usually Guy is doing all the tech stuff and answering and collecting questions, looking at chat and so on and so forth. Without Guy, it's up to me to handle all the knobs, which I hope I can manage. So first question to you, is audio fine? Can you hear me? Is chat there? Hello to everyone. Happy New Year 2025. And we've got the first question, which reminds me, by the way, that if you have a question, make sure to put question in front of it so I can see it. Now, that was the first question here, so I saw it instantly, and I see the chat is working, which is amazing. And Damien, thank you for the question. The Blue Sky account is legit. I've created it. We haven't done anything there yet because we simply too many things happening at once, and we decided, okay, we need to create the account. We need to see what's going on with X, and what are we going to do in terms of social media activity. Generally speaking, it's kind of a placeholder account right now that we're saving for the moment when we decide that we want to get active on Blue Sky. I can see the next question by Richard, and he says, there was no map battle madness back in November. Is there no one who can challenge Lord God, or have I missed the stream? No, we haven't announced the map battle for November this year, frankly speaking, because there was so much going on in terms of internal development that we kind of didn't have the time, didn't have the nerves to put that in there. So we're trying to do a map battle madness this year. And there will be an announcement somewhere around summer when we're starting when we're going to make the call for someone who can challenge Lord God. So thank you for the question. Now, as you can see, I will do my best to answer all the questions that you have. But I also have a program, and those of you who have been watching the previous Mapping It Out, you know that we are going through some company news, then we're going into battlemap editor news, and at the end of the segment, we will then look into the much anticipated DEIOS stuff and what's going on in the DEIOS sphere. So without further ado, let's jump into, and now I need to press buttons, give me a second. I think it's that one. There you go. Oh, I forgot the news sound bit. Right, there you go. So, I thought it might be nice to kick off our first 2025 stream with a bit of a review in terms of numbers and in terms of things that happened last year. Generally speaking, I think it was a pretty amazing year. We had a lot of stuff going on. We ticked off a lot of tick boxes on the things that we wanted to do. Some things we didn't tick off, and they got shifted into at least the beginning of the new year. But in total, looking back, we have a great and amazing community going on with the web battlemap editor. We had a lot of amazing releases and updates in terms of Citymap Editor stability patches. So Citymap Editor went into kind of a pre-beta state at the beginning of last year. And then we worked our ass off over the summer and into fall to get the World Map Editor into its kind of newest state. And with version 7.0 or 0.7.0, in DEIOS, we then actually achieved that in, I think, November, following with 0.7.1 with a little update because we broke our Windows certification. Either way, let's look at the company news and let's give you a bit of a review in terms of numbers, what 2024 meant for us. So first of all, we had a total of almost 80,000 maps created in the last year. The split that you can see here is not all of the maps were newly created. 55,000 were created as completely fresh new maps, and about 25,500 maps were cloned from existing maps that other users have created. So when you put those numbers together, you come around 80,000 maps that were created. And this is a really interesting figure because we were looking at it and we saw that it's about 30% of people clone maps. So they use the hub, which I think is a really good number. It's a third of our community is familiar with the hub. The maps that you guys share there, they get recognized, people take them, and then about 70% of you are still more like, meh, I'm going to make the map myself. So just purely from our perspective, I think, almost happy with that ratio. The bit that I'm not happy with, or that I think we could improve, is when you look at the maps published, and that's almost 1.5% of all the new maps created. So 817 maps have been published in the last year. In general, when you think about the hub, it's 800 maps that you've created and made available to other users. So if you're a Dungeon Fog user and you're using the hub, over the past year, you had 800 different maps that you could browse and use. However, when you look in comparison how many new maps are created, I think there could be done more, and we are going to look at how can we support you, how can we support the process, and maybe even how can we understand why you're not sharing so many maps. I know from, like, there's one bit where, from personal experience, I know that all my players in my office group are Dungeon Fog users. So when I'm playing my D&D games, I kind of hold back my maps because I don't want them to kind of spoiler them by already looking at the maps that I've created, because I know that my players would be like, hey, wait a second, why did he make this map? Oh, there's going to be combat. So that's why I'm holding back my maps. But anyways, I think the number can be improved, and I think before we can improve the number, we actually need to understand where's the holdup? Why are people not publishing maps? Are they not happy? Are they kind of shy? Do they think the maps don't look great? Because that's not true. There's a ton of amazing maps in the hub. Is it like me because they are afraid that players, that their own players might kind of sneak up and get a peek at those maps? We don't know. But generally speaking, there's something that we can figure out. And that would be one of the goals for me for this year, to actually think about ways of improving that. Otherwise, I think that is a pretty cool review in terms of map creations. And when you want to break it down, it's not exactly, but about 4,000 maps a month that are being created. It's about 2,000 maps that are being cloned per month. So I think in terms of liveliness, in terms of interaction and acceptance, I think those are really great numbers for us. Now, another thing I wanted to share with you, and I wanted to also see for myself, is actually how much time did we spend, how much effort did we as the Dungeon Fog team actually put into developing our tools last year. And I think that is also a really interesting chart. When I took the our timetables, not everyone, like, we're not super strict on tracking time. It's more like people need to have an understanding of how much time per week they spend on a certain task, but we're not tracking it down to the minute. It's more like we're keeping a loose overview, because we feel like no one is going to profit from the fact that you're working down to the minute tracking, and no one is actually looking at those data. Our goal when working with the team, the way that I see it, is everyone in the team should be understanding why they are making the task. They actually set their goals, so they set their deadlines and their kind of sprints. Sorry, I was lacking the word. And then they are working towards it, and no one is tracking their time down to the minute, where we say, how much time did you spend on that task? As long as those tasks are more or less within the right time frame, the sprint is within the estimated goal, then we're happy. So those numbers that I'm showing you, they are a mix of general estimates and the tracking that we have. But either way, the way we counted it together, 12,500 hours have been spent last year developing our tools. And when you look at how were those hours spent throughout the whole team, the general work distribution was, so overhead is a bit of a container thing where I threw everything in. That's marketing, that's meetings, that's asset reviews, all of that stuff is in the overhead part. The BME v5 and asset service development is whenever it comes to patches, updates, and improvements. And as you can see, a lot of time went into version 6 development and DEIOS. Now, before you start asking, version 6 development, as you can see, took a lot of time last year, and I can already promise you that there is going to be a really cool announcement later this year, but we're not there yet, and I want to keep the lid on it, also not to create too many topics that we're talking about today. So if there is a teaser, if there is a little sneak peek for this year, keep your ears and your eyes open for what we're going to tell you in terms of version 6. Andy is super busy working on it and is making great progress. And I think what he's doing is amazing, but we're not really ready yet to talk about it. So hang in there. We will talk about it somewhere, I would assume, around October or end of year. Let me quickly check if there are any comments so far. No, there are not. That's fine. I get to see one of these live. Yeah, Incubus, welcome. Hi. You challenged Lord God. You didn't win. So this year is going to be another opportunity to challenge him. And as I said before, there's going to be an announcement around summer. We are planning to do another map battle madness this year. Why do we not introduce monthly map challenges? We've tried that before, and there was a bit of excitement for 1 or 2 map challenges, and then it died down. I think in terms of map battle madness, there is definitely going to be a map challenge involved, because we need to figure out who is a good contestant for the title, for the crown. But having a monthly map challenge, like each month of the year, I don't think we're going to do that. I would rather think we put that into certain events where map challenge is going. Unless you want to challenge, you want to make your own community map challenge through Discord, then feel free to make a map challenge just for the Discord community. Right. Okay. So that's a bit of a review in terms of what has been happening 2024. And now, of course, I'm sure you're curious to see what are we planning for 2025. Sorry, no, I saw that. It was Richard asked about the map challenge, the map battle madness, and then you said, what about monthly map challenges? And I kind of mixed that into an answer where I said, well, we've tested the monthly map challenges, and the participation was really low on those, so we didn't do it anymore. But because we are planning a map battle madness this year, there is definitely going to be a map challenge around the map battle madness contestants. Right, okay, moving on. Roadmap. Let's look at our goals for 2025. So as you might remember from last year, I did my best to break it down into a rough overview where you can see our quarters. So this is quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, and into the specific like teams that are working on stuff internally. And I would say the interesting part happens at the bottom that I'm blocking here, and I'll move over in a second. Generally speaking, 2025 is more or less a bridge year for us, where we are finishing stuff and we are pushing development of our internal things forward. So Andy is going to spend a lot of his time on the V6 development, which means that he's also blocked a lot for doing larger tasks for the battlemap editor version 5. This doesn't mean that we're not doing anything. Like regular maintenance and bug fixing will remain the same thing as last year, where we have focus weeks or focus months where Andy kind of stops working on V6, and Lars and I are collecting tasks from your support tickets, from your Discord feedback, from wherever you let us know that something might be broken or something needs to be fixed, and then Andy will switch over and do it. But generally speaking, quarter 1 is a big one for us because, as you might have already, where do I need to move? I think over here. As you might have already peeked, the beta launch for DEIOS is scheduled for this quarter. So in the next 3 months, we want to be ready to push DEIOS from alpha into a beta version, which means that I'm going to talk about that when we come to DEIOS specifically. But there are still tasks where Andy is involved, so he's going to split his time in quarter 1 to work on version 6 development and, as you can see, account unification, and therefore helping us to get everything ready for the DEIOS launch. And then we've scheduled, and that is more or less a placeholder for now, because we do not know when exactly is a good time development-wise from Andy, or urgency-wise, because there's something coming up where we need Andy to work on fixing something. Between quarter 3 and quarter 4, there is a month that we have booked exclusively for battlemap updates. Right, I'll come to you in a second, Inc. Let me just quickly go through that roadmap, so that I'm not completely split up between things. System updates means basically this is also primarily working with the new databases that we have been setting up last year. We haven't finished it, so that's why it got shifted and prolonged into the first quarter of this year. Again, this is account unification, and if you don't know what I mean about that, and you haven't watched previous streams, the idea is through the DEIOS Kickstarter and the DEIOS pre-order pages, we have 2 different account systems where someone might have a DEIOS account but doesn't have a general Dungeon Fork account, or someone has a Dungeon Fork account but has a different or no DEIOS account, which poses a lot of problems when you think about it. Wasn't the most clever design in the first place. So we are merging those accounts and we're creating a completely new, more flexible user database that has kind of a global account management and is the precursor for the new database system that we're working on, where maps and campaigns and nodes and all those stuff are being moved into something that is a bit more stable and a bit more scalable than the databases that we are currently using. So this is going to take us in a lot of our time in Q1, and then eventually we are going. The marketplace has performed really nice last year or over the past years. I think we've had 2 new artists last year joining the marketplace, which is the Mac Cartographer, if I remember correctly, and Tom Kartos. So from where we started with the way that the marketplace works as the web interface of the marketplace, we're not happy with that anymore. I think that needs to be adjusted and adapted in a way that it allows better searching for marketplace assets and just generally speaking improves the interface there. And then there's a lot of database optimization that will just this task will accompany us for this year and probably the next year as well. The asset manager is not going to get major updates this year. It's going to get maintenance updates, bug fixing, and improvements. But as you are going to see down the road, once we are ready to speak about the stuff that Andy is working on, a lot of those boxes will be ticked off as we kind of integrate the asset manager into the way that version 6 is working. Right, and that brings me to DEIOS. And DEIOS is going to be the most exciting bit for us as a company this year, because it is the big step from going alpha into beta. And then hopefully by the end of the year, going into, I'm fairly certain that we're not going to make it a full version 0 release this year. But the idea is, the concept is that we're spending the first half of this year to publish the beta, to get the beta launch ready, then to spend time on cleanup, because we're expecting to get more feedback from new beta users that might need to be incorporated. And the second half of the year is reserved for, ideally, then thinking about ways of integrating battle maps into DEIOS. And again, this is a topic that I'm going to touch once the beta is done and dusted and we're happy with it. Cleanup is done. People are satisfied with the way that the beta launch has performed. And then we're going to make probably one of the mapping it outs dedicated to the whole topic around battle maps in DEIOS and how we're going to approach that. Right, so generally speaking, this is the roadmap 2025. And as you know from the previous years, it's an estimate, because as soon as you start developing, things will go crazy and timescales shift. So we will see how much of that we can achieve this year. But generally speaking, this is what we're aiming for. And this is what the teams have reported back to me, what their internal goals are. Right, so Inc. had a statement here. You mentioned how there was significantly less maps published lately. For me, I've been feeling the BM editor is being left behind thanks to the focus on DEIOS. Maybe that's why it has lessened. So probably, but I don't think that the mapping it outs originated from from our promise that we do monthly developer updates on DEIOS, and we eventually realized that if we spent mapping it out completely on DEIOS, it isn't really feasible to make a full stream every month on that topic. So we said, okay, let's make the mapping it out into more like a company talk that touches several topics. For example, um, the battle map stuff and other company news. Now, what if I remember correctly, the conversation was about we had this segment where we featured maps that were created by the community on a monthly basis. And the problem we had was there were like you, for example, Inc., a couple of really active map makers who shared the maps, who got a lot of likes and reviews and clones on their maps. And we ran into the problem where we said, well, if we're featuring the same artists over and over again, then this might be just a bit too excluding to all the other people who are creating maps. And so we canceled that segment, and we said we're not going to do that anymore. Instead, we're trying to find other ways to talk about battle maps and show progress or show new maps there. And there are a couple of ideas for this year that we want to do. Not talking about it right now because we need to figure out the best way to approach it. But there is going to be, since there is going to be a lot of kind of a promotion phase where we want to promote DEIOS, but we also want to promote the company. There is definitely a need for us to promote maps and map makers and map making, either battle maps, city maps, or world maps. And so we're currently looking at options, what's the best approach to do that? Because frankly speaking, just pushing them onto social media is simply not enough. We've seen that last year. It's more or less a very simplified life beat of saying, okay, we're going to publish maps regularly, but the acceptance for those posts is really small, and we need to reconsider the way that we are using social media to talk about the company and the tools that we have. So there's a whole topic internally at the moment where we are trying to find the best way to do more active, more engaging social media posts. We have because I can see the chat talking about the amount of maps being published slowing down. Now we've experienced the same thing. We've seen it too. We've also seen a general, like, this is, again, I'm not going to open a whole can of discussion here, but we've seen a general trend in the industry when we're talking with partners, when we're talking with friends, when we're talking throughout the RPG, TTRPG scene, that there is a bit of a slowdown in general, and we're not certain what it is. There's a lot of theories going around, but I'm not going to go into that here. But generally speaking, 2024 is, in comparison to the big explosion that took place throughout the lockdowns, the COVID lockdowns, the years after are now kind of equalizing out a little bit and slowing down. And we've seen that in 2024 with the amount of maps being created, the amount of maps being shared, and the amount of people joining and leaving Discord. So there's a general trend that says whatever the hype was that COVID brought or post-COVID brought is now kind of balancing out again. Right, let me quickly check who else is saying what. Yes, V5 is just as stable and usable as it was a year ago. Absolutely. There is not going to be, it's still, we're still getting reports. We see things that probably need to be fixed. So there's a bit of just maintenance necessary for V5, but the main focus for Andy is definitely on the V6 development. It also took time away from the main thing someone like me tunes in the stream for. When there is only a stream a month, what I want to focus to be is the news and updates. Okay, well, I think that's what you get, news and updates. We're going to talk a bit about the streaming plan for this year, because there are going to be changes. But before we do that, let's just go into our regular segment. Oh no, I wanted to go into the next segment, but I've got a reminder. Account unification. So you've seen it in our previous stream. I'm going to remind you again, if you want to help us, there is one thing that you can do. If you have a Dungeon Fork account, like a battlemap account, and if you have a Project DEIOS account, please check whether or not they're using the same email address. The account unification is going to be a massive migration of 2 databases. And we have a couple of indicators, primarily your email address, because we are not collecting a lot of data on you guys. We need your email address to identify, and there is the hashed and secured password that you use to identify. But apart from that, there isn't much that we can track from you. So if you have 2 separate accounts for those things, chances are that you might end up with 2 different global accounts. And we're going to do our best to run migration scripts that kind of bring that together. But there's only so much we can do if you have 2 different email addresses, and we can't really identify you differently. So if you want to help us, make sure that your email addresses are identical on both accounts. That will probably solve us, or that will probably help us to unify your account easily, and will help us reduce the amount of probably post-migration support where we need to manually merge accounts because you realized, oh, I now have 2 different accounts. It will eventually be a single account, exactly, and the timeline for this is end of Q1. So that you are going to get emails in the near future that will remind you of that will ask you to do that, and there is going to be some kind of wizard that will help you to migrate your accounts if you have 2 separate accounts. So all of that we're working on that, we're planning for that. But generally speaking, if you want to make it easier for us, just make sure that you use the same email address on both accounts. Right, there you go. So this was the segment that I wanted to switch into, and that this is our regular segment for battlemap editors, and that is asset news. And I think Tony can be really proud of our newest asset pack, the one that is January pack. It has been released today. I pushed the button a couple of hours before the stream started so that you can, that you can already enjoy it. And that is the new GNOME workshop. Let me move aside so you can see that mechanical arm there. I've made a little map with it already to preview it. And what you're going to see more often this year and moving forward is when we look at new assets, we also look at existing asset packs and which pack is a good combination or a good addition to already existing asset packs. So what you can see here is to create this map, I have primarily used the GNOME workshop, which comes with about, if I remember correctly, 32, maybe. I can't remember from the top of my head. I think it's somewhere 30-ish new assets that are Mad Inventor GNOME constructions that you can use. But the way we created them was that we looked at the existing packs like the Clockwork pack, the Toy Maker, and the Laboratory, and see how we can create a pack that has a unique standalone theme for itself, but works as a great addition to the other existing packs. And yes, there is some really neat stuff in there. Like, I think the telescope is really amazing. Those conduits. What else do we have there? Well, you can see some of the Clockwork cogs I've used. There are 2 separate gnomish inventor battle chairs, the golden one that you can see enlarged, as well as hidden beneath it, the evil spider one. There is, unfortunately, hidden by our amazing gnome seat, there's a really cool mech suit in there that you can put in where gnomes are working on it, constructing a kind of a mechanical golem suit. And we were trying, yeah, it's sort of steampunk, you're right. We were trying to aim at something that is a little bit, because for me personally, gnomish inventions are always a little bit weird and wonky. So it should be between steampunk, techie, and a bit weird, strange, or funny. And I think Tony did an amazing job there. I have a request here from Richard, who says a map pack for modern cyberpunk or post-apocalyptic streets, roads, sidewalks, and objects. I would assume that you mean in addition to the existing packs, because we have a couple of modern and cyberpunk and I think post-apocalyptic assets out there, but we haven't done a lot on additions for that. Because the request is really low on those. But it is noted that you've asked for it, and I will talk to Tony and we will see if we can squeeze in, because we said last year, we said we wanted to do a sci-fi setting, and then we didn't do. Then we said we wanted to do a cyberpunk boat setting, like Bangkok, Venice style. And it turned out that it wasn't as good as we liked it. So instead we did Magitech boat setting for fantasy. So there is kind of a backlog on doing something for not fantasy settings. And I've noted your request. So we're going to look if we can do something this year. Not steampunk, gnome punk, exactly. Clarification, I haven't found sidewalks, modern streets, and or hedges or shrubberies in the pathing and roads tool. In the pathing and roads tools, you're in DEIOS, you're in the city map maker. Okay, got you. Yes, so that is definitely going to happen this year, because we are going to update the city map editor with a bunch of new stuff. Primarily, it hasn't happened yet because simply we are waiting on the asset manager to be connected to DEIOS so that we can publish asset packs through the asset manager as we're doing it for the battlemap editor, instead of doing it through patches. And as you're going to see in the DEIOS segment, that is part of the roadmap for Q1. All right, but that's just one pack that we did. And as you know, we have amazing artists. And since we did our last mapping it out, they were also really active on the marketplace. So a shout out goes to Forgotten Adventures and Chipping Grove, who have published, and probably they have published more this week. I don't know. Thomas is responsible for putting new packs live. They're super active. So maybe they're even more published by the time you're seeing this. But since we did the mapping it out in November, We have the Organics layer part 3, Death and Decay part 3, 4, and 5 from Forgotten Adventures, as well as another prefabs pack, pack 10 from Forgotten Adventures, and a really nice Tavern Trove collection from Chibbin Grove. Did I say Tavern Trove? I said Tavern Trove. By Chibbin Grove, that has been published. And as always, they are available in the marketplace, which means that if you're a free user, you can just simply purchase them. If you're a premium user, you get a discount if you want to purchase them. But as a premium user, you also have the benefit of using the Patreon integration, which means that if you want to support the artist, like for example, Forgotten Adventures or Chibbin Grove, through Patreon, they have a button, they have a toggle that allows them to give you those assets, or to give those assets to their Patreon supporters directly without additional purchases in the marketplace. So that means that the best way to get all the assets is to become Patreon followers to Forgotten Adventures, to Chibbin Grove, to Tom Carter's Mac Cartographer, and Keora, because that will give you instant access to all the assets that they're publishing in the marketplace, asterisk, if they have activated the Patreon subscription or the Patreon Connect for those packs. Right. In other news, I think we're nearing the end of the general company and battlemap editor segment. Now we need to talk about the streaming plan for this year. Because of a mix of time conflicts and a general, let's say a bit of a lack of content that we had last year. We said, okay, we're going to try a bi-monthly mapping it out, but we're going to put more content into those mapping it outs instead of doing a monthly mapping it out, which sometimes, to be honest, felt a bit like a chore where we really didn't have a lot to talk about, and had a lot of difficulties of aligning it into our schedule when it comes to having Guy as a moderator, when it comes to having enough content, when it comes to sitting down and prepping all of the material for the mapping it outs. So for this year, we are going to, and if you hate it, let us know on Discord, be loud, and we will change it. But generally speaking, our goal for this year is we're going to have a bi-monthly mapping it out. And it's going to be aligned around important dates that we kind of anticipate, and also again to make sure that our beloved moderator Guy Sklendis can be there and join us in the show. I hate it. There you go. Hate it. Okay. I hear you. So the next mapping it out after this one will be on March the 19th. And then the next one will be planned on May 21st. Now, I can see a lot of hate in there. So we'll wait a little bit for the rest of the Discord community and the YouTube audience to let them voice their concerns. If that is not what you like, if that is not what you enjoy, we will find a way to cycle back to monthly streams. We might need to simply adjust it a little bit, because I don't want to fill the air with nothingness, just to spread out 1.5 hours of talking if we don't have anything to talk about. Oh yeah, that's actually a good compromise. I will accept in trade alternating with solo till mapping streams on the not mapping it out month. That actually is a good idea. Thanks, Elias. It's I like Damien's suggestion. Maybe we can mix it up and bring back the oh, it was such a lovely name and I forgot it. What was it called? Um, it was not Map Battle Madness. It was something similar. Well, there was a segment where we were just doing maps for an evening, just an hour or two where we're mapping, which actually might be a really good idea because now that DEIOS is going to go into beta, we need to do demos and tutorials anyways, which means that we can use this as a good demonstration platform to show people how to use DEIOS, and we can alternate between maps in DEIOS, battle maps, and city maps. Right. He's living making maps anyways. Yeah, it's true. Right. So, that was the whole segment on company news. Now, a lot of you people, I assume, are here to hear about what's going on in DEIOS. And I think you're going to be really happy with what you're going to see and what you're going to hear. More tutorial streams that focus on demoing things like scaling, brushes. Would also like to see create a city built on the bones of a huge monster. Oh, you're coming up with the... Hold your horses. That typically is how the stream starts. We say, okay, what are we going to do? What are we going to do today? And you're going to come up with the craziest idea that I somehow have to manage then. But yes, if we're bringing back the map show, which title was really cool, but I forgot how it was named. Come on, Chen. What was the old segment called? Please help me. It was something with madness too, I think. Wasn't it? I can't remember. Someone has to quickly go into the YouTube archives and look it up. Once we bring that back as a segment, which again, I'm really warming up to the idea because it means every second month I'm doing maps, every second month, the other second month, we're doing a mapping it out, is going to start with a question: what are you going to do? What should we do today? Then you can vote on ideas or propose ideas. And also, it's kind of an AMA where you don't know how to do something, you ask me, and ideally I know how to do it, or we try to figure it out together. DEIOS Destruction. No, that's the regular name for every demo that I'm doing. It's the DEIOS Destruction stream. Hopefully with beta, it's going to get more and more complicated to destroy DEIOS. It's the second I end the stream, I will remember, but now I don't. Either way, we're talking about Project DEIOS and development news, and as you have seen in the roadmap before, there's a Q1 focus point for us, and now we're going to dive into this Q1 and break it down for you so that you get a better understanding of what we are going to do there. So we have a big task that we started last year that we need to finish, and you're going to see today why that is so important. That is still going on, and throughout this task, working on it kind of messed a little bit around with our planning on asset updates and things like that. So last year we asked you whether you want to have an intermediate asset update or you want to wait until the biomes update is done, and you said, it's fine, let's wait for the biomes update. But as things happened and as things progressed, and we realized that the whole biomes update requires a structural change in the way that we're treating hierarchies, the biomes update got pushed back. And in the wake of this, we didn't really release new assets. Now, I sat down with Ilya last week, and was it last week or the week before? I can't really remember. So at the start of the year, we sat down and we revisited our schedule and we said, okay, how much time do you need to finish what you're currently working on? And when is a good time to do updates? And he said, well, to be honest, there is going to be the Flex framework, and we're going to talk about that in a second. The Flex framework is probably going to be finished somewhere between the end of February and mid-March. And once this framework is finished, all the tools are now building on the Flex framework. And then we can do a proper update, which I felt like is too far away to leave you waiting for new assets. So instead we decided and said, okay, at the beginning of at the beginning of February, we're going to release the Asian setting that we've shown you last year, that you've been waiting for patiently and without complaining. Thank you very much. We wanted to hand it to you last year, and then with all the updates, everything got pushed around. So now we're going to hand it out. The goal is to be next week, and there is going to be a very simple update that just hands you the Asian assets, which includes all the city assets for Asian maps, as well as some new world map assets that you can use to create Asian cities or Asian settlements on world maps. You might have seen in the previous stream that we are also working on winter assets. I tried to put this together with the Asian assets, but then it would again get pushed back because we are waiting on some asset refinements for mountains and settlements, I believe, still open. And we don't want to wait. We don't want you to wait for it any longer. So start of February, next week, Asian setting is coming. Then once I have the reworked and reviewed assets for winter setting, the winter setting is going to be published just as an asset update. And we also don't want to wait on the whole asset manager integration to hand out those assets because, again, it feels like you will be waiting on those things, and if anything goes wrong and we have to delay and push back, you will be waiting even longer for assets that are just sitting on my table being ready to be released. So in terms of assets, there is like a regular asset release planned with the Asian setting, the winter setting, and then an asset update that we called Community Editions. If you've been following us on Discord, if you've been active on Discord, you might have seen that people are already sharing, comparing ideas on what to do with certain things. So shout out if you're using Underdark assets to create tornadoes in your deserts. I heard you. I've seen that. We are going to make a proper update to desert packs and include more stuff for deserts. We will include more stuff for swamps. And if you are missing something else, just let us know on Discord. Post your ideas on Discord about what you would like to see as just regular world mapped assets. And we will yeah, exactly. Winter assets just in time for spring. Yeah. And we will make sure that we will integrate them into one of our packs that we release. Okay, so this is just the top bar there. But that is just us kind of working off the stuff that has stacked on our table and freeing up the pipeline of assets that we are hoarding here, that should actually not be here with me, but they should be out with you. Hi Lord God, you are going to be challenged this year. If you haven't heard it before, better get ready for it. Right, so the big one is the Flex update, and I have a slide for that explains what this is doing, and I also have a demo that shows you what it can do. In terms of our Q1 roadmap, I kind of worked the buffer in there already because our Q1 ends in April, not in March, as it should be. But we don't know, with all the stuff that's going on, whether or not we will actually make it on the time of end of March to launch our beta. But that's the goal. That's what we're aiming for. But because there is still a lot of insecurity in whether or not we can actually make all that happen, it is extended into a buffer time into April. Account unification and asset manager are tasks that are at least already on our roadmap in terms of in our patch planning, so in Git, but they need to be done and finished. So what you're going to see in the next couple of weeks and months is there are a couple of asset updates. Then there's going to be a framework update that will basically give you better performance throughout all the tools and bigger maps, because the way that DEIOS draws on your resources when you have gigantic, like moon-sized or planet-sized maps, is really painful. Like, you need to have a brutal machine to run those maps, and there's a lot of loading delay in there, to the point where people feel like the software freezes. Now the Flex update will actually tackle this and hopefully improve this by a tenfold. But it is just going to be a framework update. So apart from performance, you're not going to experience any differences in there with new assets coming along. The account unification then is basically something that we have to do internally. You're not going to feel that because you're still using your login to launch DEIOS, to authenticate in DEIOS. It will just use the new database and not the old database to do so. And the asset manager is actually going to be the first big step for us to change from handing out new asset packs through updates to launching DEIOS and checking for latest releases and then downloading them, so that you don't have to update the software each time. So we can actually split it and say, if we have an update that is new tools, bug fixing, or general application development improvements, versus whenever new asset packs get released, they get released through the asset manager. You're going to see them as DEIOS asset packs in the asset manager, and DEIOS will download them for you once you launch the application. Followed by 0.7.9, the big final update that actually then brings us into the beta, the biomes. And one of the reasons we are doing the Flex update is because we have realized that this is the only feasible way for us to actually make biomes work the way that we would like them to see working. And I'm talking about flex, and you have no idea what I'm talking about. Maybe you have. Kudos. It is quite a popular, well-known library. But Flex is what is called, it's an entity component system that has been used by big companies for games primarily. I think, if I remember correctly, Riot Games is using them. The new Command and Conquer, it's not Command and Conquers, but it's the one that should be in the spirit of Command and Conquers. I can't remember the name right now, is also using it. And it's basically, if you think of an entity component system, it is basically a parenting library that allows you to create parenting groups of entities that share certain properties or belong together or need to be grouped together. So in October last year. I can't remember when we did the first demo. I think the first biomes demo that I showed was in October. And prior to that, Ilya was building like an in-house prototype, a proof of concept of what the biomes could do for us. And we realized that if we're doing that and we're grouping thousands of trees into a forest biome, on top of all the other things that are happening, manipulation of a biome itself will be super difficult with the proprietary system that we have built for organizing and grouping stuff internally. So Ilya proposed the idea that we actually switch to an entity component system that is more battle-proofed than something that we build ourselves. And I agreed, and I said, yeah, let's try that. But as always, it sounded like, well, it's a couple of weeks and we have it integrated, turning out to be like, well, it's probably 2 months until it is really integrated. And that is what Ilya is feverishly working on at the moment. And he's almost finished. The green bars that you can see here show the general progress of those things. Like the whole Flex entity component system is done by 2/3. The big ones are done already. The Flex implementation into our core framework is completed. Flex is in there. Ilya then added a scene graph to manage those groups, to manage those entity dependencies, which helps us a lot for our undo redo stacks, for grouping stuff. And now every tool that we have written, like the landmass tool is already integrated, like the biomes tool, its prototype is already integrated. Every tool now needs to be re-plugged in to not use our proprietary system, but use the Flex system. And that is basically what Ilya is currently doing. And once he has finished that, which again, if we look here, is going to be end of February, beginning of March, then he is free to work on the biomes, and once our account unification is ready, to re-plug in the authentication to the new database. That's not a major task, it's just an important one, and do the asset manager integration. And we might shift things around where we say, okay, asset manager integration might come a bit later than the biomes update, depending on whether or not we run into any problems there. Right. So that's Flex. And that's what Ilya has been working on in November, in December, and now is finishing it up in January and February. Right. And with that, I think it's time to go into demo because we have a really nice first prototype demo of the forest biome in action. And I will have to switch here for a second so I can actually, if you have any questions, now's a really good time to ask them, because I need to quickly launch the prototype build. And move it over here. And while I'm doing that, I thought I made a map for it, but it's fine. We'll start fresh. All right. Let's go into demo full screen. I don't see any questions so far, so we're good to go. Let's create a new map and let's call this biome testing create. Okay, so that it is a bit more visible for you guys, let me just quickly create a landmass around here. There you go. Okay, so this is This is classic work in progress, prototyping, proof of concept stuff where Ilya puts together things so I can test them, I can give feedback on it, and it is far from cleaned up. So when you look at the UI, the whole widget that we have here is completely useless. It's a placeholder that tells us that there is going to be a widget eventually, but it is not doing anything. The forest biome as a test biome currently is hard coded with certain assets in here, but the tool is working, which means that if I start to create a shape, it will actually populate it with, and as you can see, there might be still some pathing glitches with the texture beneath it. And I can add to it, and I can, of course, manipulate the size of the brush, so I can do like, whoa, there's a little forest here. And I can, let's go back to something bigger because that makes it easier. Oh no, 55 is too much, 25 is good. I can, of course, subtract. If you're feeling the same kind of lag to it, that is because I am running OBS, I am running Discord, I am running so many different tools at the moment that it is a bit. It wasn't when I was testing it before stream. It wasn't that bad. It is now worse because the live streaming is a bit affecting it. But that's not the most exciting part. Oh, I can of course undo all the stuff that I did here. I've been adding and deleting a lot of things here. Okay, let's undo this. Let's try something else. Can you mess with the density? Yes, I can. It's not pretty at the moment because it's not optimized, but I can actually mess with the density, and we're going to look at that in a second. But what I wanted to do first is I wanted to create a little mountain range. Let's do the mountain range here. Let's zoom in a little bit so you can see better. Okay, let's say that this is our beautiful, beautiful mountain range. And now we want to populate it with forest. And so all I have to do is I'll pick, and again, please ignore this. This is the non-functioning widget here. I'm always doing forest when I click on my little demo forest tool. And now I'm going to add forest here. And as you can see, it already encompasses, as it was planned initially, as the whole thing was as we hoped for, it already encompasses our mountains. So it is really, it's going to be a really strong and really simple tool to say, oh, we're going to have a mountain here, we're going to have a mountain here, maybe a little bit here and here. And you have those amazing mountains, forests that will actually allow us to place a dwarven mine in there, and each asset in there is, or oh no, it's not selectable yet because this is part of the new flex entity system. So the whole forest is movable as its entity, but I can't double click in there yet to actually select single assets, and I cannot rubber delete anything in there because those things are not connected to the flex system yet. But this is how you can create it. And now let's see what happens if I create something. Let's go down here. This is regular density forest. Let's increase it or decrease it. The slider is just for me to switch around. Do something like this. And it actually does something with the density, but what it doesn't do yet is it doesn't switch between when to use those high density assets and when to use low density assets. So that is something that we're going to change eventually, but let's ramp it up to the max. And let's see what that is doing. Okay. So there you go. And I think I can move it and they can actually intersect to some degree, because now I've selected two of them and I can't unselect it anymore. But as you can see, the whole thing of two biomes merging into each other is also kind of implemented already. And the whole thing feels really cool. I really enjoy adding forests. Oh, now I've updated this one. Okay. And this is just the forest biome. It is the most complicated biome, that because of the way that it needs outlines, it needs insight, it needs the density sliders. The other biomes are much less complicated to do. So that's why we said, okay, let's start with the complicated one. If that one's working out nicely, then we can easily scale it down to easier biomes like a grass biome, or again, the mountain biome or swamp biome, or whatever we want to do. In terms of biomes, the challenge was, can we do a really nice forest biome? And I think the answer is yes. That is really nice. And introducing more sliders like the density of the outline, the density of the trees inside, what else could we do? Oh, right, picking the assets that you want to use to populate. So there's a lot of stuff here in the UI panel that needs to be exposed. And once Ilya is done with the flex system, his timetable is free, and he will focus on this, and he will improve those things. The cool part again is that because the way it is using the flex system already means that the whole entity of the forest is already structured correctly, and makes it super simple to go in and adjust things in there. Yeah, right. Configure the variety of trees within is an example. Like, I think in the previous stream we've talked about the different biome types, and there's going to be they're going to be fixed biomes, like the like a conifer pine tree biome. Then there's going to be how do you call it, greenwood biome. But then there's going to be a custom biome where you actually pick for yourself what is the outline, what are the outline assets, and what are the inside assets. So if you're super crazy, you could create probably a city with it, when you think about it, where you just put outline trees, outline houses, small houses on the outside, and then a lot of bigger houses on the inside, and it would create a city based on that concept. Yeah, guys, that's it. That's biomes as we have them right. Oh no, I forgot an important part, didn't I? Oh, rivers don't work yet, but we can look at subtraction and make it like this. And now we're going to add a river. Yeah, it's not going to be like what definitely is missing at the moment is rivers are going to cut through those biomes properly, removing those trees. That's just not happening at the moment. There definitely needs to be some kind of double click to actually select single assets in there, which is not happening at the moment as well. Right, are there any boreal conifers, whatever the last one is, I'm not trying to pronounce it. Deciduous. There you go. I tried to pronounce it. Guys, I think that's it for tonight. Thank you very much for attending. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you are as excited as I am for what's coming in the next couple of weeks and months. If you have any more questions, please feel free to join us on Discord if you haven't already. It's a lovely community. If you need assistance, people will help you. If you want to chat with the developers or with me, we're always trying to be there for you. Damien is one of our lovely community moderators who's going to assist you in Discord. So see you on Discord, see you on YouTube, see you in February probably with a mapping stream where I am going to do a map, and we're going to decide which map it is. Keep an eye out for the announcements. Otherwise, no Guy here. Guy, get well soon. I hope you recover soon. I want to steal the last words because it's really boring to steal them from myself. So the only thing I can do is I can try to surprise myself and you with happy map making. Bye.